Everyone thinks owning an SUV means bleeding money at the pump and the repair shop. These 10 compact SUVs prove the opposite. They cost almost nothing to run. They avoid costly mistakes, and they just keep going. Here is exactly which ones I would shop, what to inspect. And number 1 is the safest overall buy. Number 10, Suzuki SX-4, crossover 2007 to 2009. Odd little crossovers usually scare buyers away, but that is why the Suzuki SX-4 crossover can be a quiet, cheaper, useful pick for the right owner. I would not buy one because the badge does not impress anyone. I would buy it because the entry price is low, the body is small, and the running costs stay closer to a compact car than a real SUV. The 2.0-liter four-cylinder is basic, the early automatic is conventional, and the car does not need oversized tires, huge brake rotors, or costly luxury hardware. Fuel economy usually lands in the low to mid-20s combined, depending on transmission and drive layout, which is not hybrid magic, but it is fair for a small crossover with available all-wheel drive. In real ownership, the savings come from size. Smaller tires, compact brake jobs, normal batteries, ordinary struts, and lightweight keep the bills friendly. Current prices often sit around $2,500 to $6,000, depending on mileage, rust, tires, service records, and all-wheel drive condition. The market misses it because people hear Suzuki and think parts, nightmare. Mechanics think more clearly. Cosmetic pieces and odd trim can be annoying, but normal wear parts are still the real ownership story. That means you inspect harder before buying. Check the underside for rust. Test all-wheel drive engagement if equipped. Run the air conditioning. Check charging voltage, and avoid missing trim, accident damage, or cars that look like they were used as cheap winter toys. A clean one with boring records can be a simple runabout that gives you hatchback fuel cost with more ground clearance. It is also easy to park, easy to see out of, and not heavy enough to destroy brakes every year. Choose this one when you want the cheapest weird little all-wheel drive crossover, and you do not care if the badge impresses anybody. I would also look for plain steel or factory wheels because odd aftermarket wheels can make tire shopping more annoying. Keep it stock, keep it clean, and the little Suzuki makes sense as a low-cost tool, not a forever collectible. If the Suzuki is the surprise oddball, number 9 is the old Korean SUV that makes sense only when you choose the simple version. If this kind of ownership math helps you, subscribe. We find the reliable cars before the market turns them expensive, costly, and crowded. Number 9. Hyundai Tucson, 2005 to 2009, 2.0 four-cylinder. Plenty of people still treat older Hyundai SUVs like throwaway appliances, but the right early Tucson can be a basic, honest, low-cost workhorse if you shop with your head. The 2.0 four-cylinder is the budget play here, because it avoids the extra fuel use and added front-end weight of the 2.7 V6. You are not buying speed, you are buying a compact SUV with plain parts, calmer insurance, and repairs that do not require a specialist. Fuel economy usually sits around the low 20s in town and the middle 20s on the highway, depending on transmission and condition. That is not amazing, but the real win is the total cost. Tires are smaller than big SUV tires. Brakes are normal, struts are common, and a battery or alternator does not feel like a luxury car punishment. Current prices usually land around $2,500 to $6,000 for honest drivers, which makes it one of the tighter budget choices here for buyers paying cash. The reliability story is simple. The engine is not fancy, and that is the point. It uses normal service logic, but timing belt service matters, coolant matters, radiator age matters, and rust can ruin the savings fast. Mechanics know these are not magical. They also know many bad ones died because owners treated them like disposable cars and skipped the boring work. That is different from saying every clean Tucson is a disaster. Inspect timing belt and water pump history, coolant color, brake lines, underbody rust, warm automatic shifts, idle quality, and air conditioning. If the seller says it only runs warm when parked, walk away. If the transmission bangs after 10 miles, walk away. A cheap SUV stops being cheaper the second you inherit someone else's neglect. I would rather pay a little more for a boring Tucson with receipts than gamble on a shiny one with mystery heat problems. Choose this one when you need a cheaper small SUV for local driving, and you care more about repair simplicity than style. One more thing. Do not buy the V6 because the test drive feels quicker for 5 minutes. The four-cylinder is the sensible choice for this angle. because every gallon, tire, and repair decision stays smaller. That is how cheap ownership works. The Tucson is the tight budget pick, but number 8 is the domestic SUV that wins, because the parts counter already knows it. Number 8, Ford Escape, 2009 to 2012, 2.5 four-cylinder. Forget resale bragging for a minute, because the Ford Escape is not trying to beat Toyota at the auction lane. Its case is cheaper, plainer, and more useful. Repairs stay normal, parts are everywhere, and a clean one can cost less to buy than the Honda or Toyota everybody searches for first. I would shop the 2.5 four-cylinder because it avoids the turbo heat and later complexity that made newer Escapes more nervous for budget buyers. You get a simple four-cylinder, a regular automatic, normal suspension, and a platform independent shops have seen for years. Front-wheel drive fuel economy usually lands in the low 20s around town and the high 20s on the highway, which is decent for a boxy compact crossover. Repair cost is not the absolute lowest in the class, but parts availability is strong, common, and friendly. Water pumps, control arms, struts, brakes, motor mounts, wheel bearings, sensors, batteries, and used body pieces are easy to find. That matters because cheap ownership is not just one yearly number. It is the feeling that you can approve a repair without wondering whether the whole vehicle is worth saving. A repair should feel planned, clear, and worthwhile, not like a long hunt through rare parts. Current prices often sit around $3,500 to $7,000, while comparable Honda and Toyota listings can ask more for the badge, even with similar mileage. The market misses the Escape because people repeat the safe answer, buy Honda or Toyota. That advice is not wrong, but it leaves a value gap for a clean Escape with the right engine. Inspect rust at the rear quarters, subframe areas, rockers, and brake lines. Test warm transmission shifts, listen for front-end clunks, check air conditioning, charging voltage, coolant condition, and uneven tire wear. Skip rough ones with mystery overheating, slipping shifts, cheap patchwork repairs, or a seller who says every noise is normal. A clean Escape can be a practical, cheaper, honest little crossover that does daily work without prestige money. Choose this one when you want cheaper parts, easy domestic repair, and a compact crossover that does not carry Honda or Toyota pricing. The shop story is simple here. When an Escape comes in for brakes, a wheel bearing, or front-end noise, nobody stands around wondering what parts fit. That saves real-time frustration and keeps labor conversations clearer. I would still avoid lifted, rusty, overheated, or badly neglected examples because cheap parts cannot fix a risky story. One more shop note, watch the rear hatch, glass release, and door locks because little electrical annoyances can turn a cheap daily into an annoying errand machine. Also, check tire size and brand. 4 matching tires tell me the owner bought maintenance before problems became obvious. Mismatched rubber, cracked sidewalls, and pulsing brakes tell me the savings are still waiting to be spent. That is not a deal breaker, but it is bargaining math, and smart buyers use it before money changes hands and keeps emotions out of the deal. The Escape wins at the parts counter, but number 7 is the forgotten Mitsubishi that keeps basic repair costs lower than people expect. Number 7, Mitsubishi Outlander Sport, 2011 to 2015, 2.0 front-wheel drive first. Nobody brags about an Outlander Sport at the gas station, and that quiet reputation is exactly why used prices can stay friendly, calmer, and easier to negotiate. This is the surprise pick for buyers who want a small crossover, not a heavy family hauler pretending to be cheap. The 2.0 four-cylinder is not powerful, but it is basic, and front-wheel drive examples are where I would start because they avoid extra all-wheel drive hardware. Fuel economy usually lands in the mid-20s combined, with some front drive trims reaching around 30 miles per gallon on the highway. That matters when the crossover shape is mostly for seating height, hatch access, errands, and bad weather confidence, not towing. Average annual repair cost lands below the compact crossover average, and the common bills are ordinary: brakes, tires, struts, control arms, wheel bearings, batteries, and fluid service. Current used prices usually run around $5,000 to $10,000, depending on mileage, condition, tires, transmission feel, and records. The market misses it because Mitsubishi feels forgotten. Buyers worry about the badge before they look at the actual machine. Mechanics look at size, parts, service access, and whether the drivetrain behaves. That is a more useful, honest, professional way to shop. The big caution is the continuously variable transmission, so do not oversell it. Drive the vehicle fully warm. Listen for whining. Feel for shuddering, check service records, and avoid any seller who says transmission service is not needed. A smooth one can be low drama. A rough one can become expensive very quickly. Inspect suspension noise, tire wear, air conditioning, cooling fans, brake feel, and rust underneath. Avoid rough all-wheel drive examples with no fluid history, because extra parts only help when someone maintained them. A clean front drive Outlander Sport can be a simple, affordable, low-stress crossover for commuting, errands, and light family duty. It is not fancy, but plain can be powerful when the payment is gone and the repairs stay small. Choose this one when you want a cheap, simple, low-drama compact crossover and you are careful about transmission condition. Another reason I like this pick is expectation. Nobody buys one expecting luxury silence, towing strength, or sports car speed. That keeps the owner honest. You maintain it, drive it normally, and let the smaller tires, modest brakes, and plain four-cylinder do the saving. Check the cabin, too. Broken switches, water smells, dead air conditioning, and mismatched tires tell you the previous owner cut corners. Cheap ownership needs a clean starting point. For ownership math, I would rather buy the plain front drive version with records than the loaded all-wheel drive one with missing fluids and a fancy story. The cheaper one is often the smarter one. Look for steady, idle, clean shifts, dry carpet, and a seller who can explain maintenance without getting defensive. That calm story matters because forgotten brands need proof, not promises from a smiling seller. That is where patience saves money before you buy anything. This is also a good reminder that being cheap to own does not always mean famous. Sometimes the quiet badge is the discount, and the discount keeps insurance, purchase price, and expectations lower. The Mitsubishi is the forgotten budget play, but number 6 adds real weather confidence without jumping into thirsty big crossover costs. Number 6. Subaru XV Crosstrek, 2013 to 2015. Winter roads change the whole ownership conversation, and the Subaru XV Crosstrek is the small SUV I look at when all-wheel drive matters, but fuel cost still needs to stay sensible. It is basically a lifted Impreza hatchback, and some buyers say that like an insult. Mechanics know that is part of the appeal. A smaller size means less weight, smaller tires, smaller brakes, and better fuel economy than a big all-wheel drive SUV. Real-world economy often lands in the high 20s combined, with highway numbers in the low 30s when the car is healthy and the tires are right. Annual repair cost is reasonable for an all-weather crossover, but you still need to inspect it like a Subaru, not like a fantasy. The 2.0 Boxer is efficient and familiar, but early examples need oil level checks. The continuously variable transmission needs a smooth test drive, no shudder, no delayed engagement, and service history whenever possible. Tires matter more here than on a regular front drive SUV. Matching brand, size, tread depth, and wear are not optional, because mismatched tires can create expensive drivetrain stress. Current used prices usually run around $7,000 to $12,000 for usable drivers, depending on mileage, rust, transmission, tire condition, and service records. The market misses the Crosstrek because some people think it is too slow, too small, or just a hatchback in hiking shoes. That is the point. It gives you winter confidence without the fuel appetite, tire cost, and brake cost of larger SUVs. For a buyer in the Rust Belt or mountains, that balance can be practical, useful, and worth paying for. Inspect oil level before and after the test drive. Listen for wheel bearing hum. Check suspension clunks. Look for underbody rust. Test the transmission warm and confirm all 4 tires match properly. Also check air conditioning, heat, rear hatch seals, and service records. Choose this one when you need winter confidence, decent fuel economy, and a small SUV that does not punish you like a larger all-wheel drive vehicle. That is the ownership advantage. You get winter grip, a useful hatch, and decent miles per gallon without buying something oversized. Just remember, Subaru savings disappear fast when tires are mismatched or the oil level is ignored. The Subaru is the weather pick, but number 5 gives you Honda packaging and repair costs that almost feel unfair. Number 5. Honda HR-V, 2016 to 2018. Small crossovers usually promise SUV usefulness, then sneak compact car comfort away from you. But the Honda HR-V keeps the cheaper, clever, sensible parts of a small car and adds just enough height to matter. I like this one for buyers who do not need a big CR-V but still want an easier step-in, a hatch, good fuel mileage, and Honda parts support. The real secret is size. Smaller weight means smaller tires, smaller brakes, less fuel, less suspension stress, and calmer insurance. Average annual maintenance is unusually low for an SUV-type vehicle, and that matches what you feel in real life. The 1.8-liter four-cylinder is naturally aspirated, simple, and not trying to be powerful. No turbo heat, no big engine packed into a tight bay, no expensive all-wheel drive requirement if you buy front drive. Fuel economy usually lands in the upper 20s around town and low to middle 30s on the highway, which means the gas bill stays friendly if you drive real miles every week. Tires, brakes, spark plugs, filters, batteries, and basic suspension work feel closer to compact car money than SUV money. Current used prices usually run around $9,000 to $15,000, with higher mile examples closer to budget, and clean, low-mile cars getting pricey. The market complains that the HR-V is slow and small. Mechanics hear that and think, good, because slow and small often means cheaper, lighter, and easier to keep alive. The caution is the CVT. Do not ignore it just because the badge says Honda. Check service history, drive it fully warm, feel for shudder, listen for whining, and make sure acceleration is smooth from a stop. Also listen for suspension clunks, test air conditioning, door locks, window switches, rear seat folding, and cargo hardware. A cheap HR-V with a tired transmission is not a bargain. A clean one with records is a low-drama runabout that can do errands, commuting, light family duty, and weekend grocery runs without acting costly. Choose this one when you want Honda reliability, low fuel use, and small SUV practicality without paying CR-V money. A real owner feels that every month, not just on the test drive. Oil changes are simple, filters are cheap, and the cabin layout is practical enough that you are not buying a bigger SUV just to carry groceries or a folded chair. I would still avoid any example with jerky takeoff, delayed engagement, or a seller who acts offended by transmission questions. Cheap ownership is not luck. It is buying the clean one, then keeping the boring service rhythm. If the HR-V is the cheap modern Honda, number 4 is the fuel saver that can make gas stations feel optional. Subscribe if you want the real ownership cost before you buy. Prices, engines, weak spots, and repair bills matter here, not shiny promises. Number 4. Kia Niro Hybrid, 2017 to 2019. Fuel prices make most SUVs feel guilty after a few fill-ups, but the Kia Niro Hybrid changes that math fast enough to get your attention. It is not a rock crawler, not a towing rig, and not a macho truck substitute. It is a small, practical hybrid crossover for people who want SUV shape, hatchback use, and fuel economy that can embarrass regular compact SUVs. Depending on trim and tire setup, these early Niro hybrids can run in the 40s combined, and some trims reach around 50 miles per gallon in the right use. That is where ownership gets cheaper every month, because fuel savings do not happen once, they repeat with every tank. If you drive 12,000 to 15,000 miles a year, the Niro can save hundreds of dollars compared with a normal small SUV that lives in the mid-20s. The hybrid system also uses regenerative braking, so brake wear can be lighter when the car is driven normally. Annual maintenance costs stay reasonable for a hybrid, but the buyer still needs to inspect it carefully. The gas engine is not working hard all the time, which helps longevity, but the dual clutch transmission has to behave cleanly. Low-speed clutch shudder, delayed engagement, harsh crawling, or poor service history can turn the fuel saver into a warning sign. Current used prices usually run around $9,500 to $14,000, depending on trim, mileage, battery condition, and records. The market misses the Niro because many buyers do not think of it as a real SUV, and others still fear hybrids. Mechanics and careful owners look at the running cost math instead. Check hybrid battery health if a scan is available, verify service records, test low-speed clutch behavior, inspect cooling systems, tires, and brakes, then look underneath for rust. Also, make sure the cabin electronics work, because cheap fuel does not excuse annoying electrical neglect. Choose this one when fuel cost is your biggest pain and you want a small crossover that stretches every gallon. The Niro is not the best pick for someone who hates hybrid systems or does only short, neglected trips. But for a commuter who keeps records and wants fewer gas stops, it is smart, frugal, and surprisingly useful. The other thing I like is how the Niro changes your habits. You stop planning every week around fuel stops, and you start noticing how much money bigger SUVs waste just moving their own weight. That is not a small thing for a retired guy, a commuter, or anyone watching every gallon. Just remember, hybrid savings only make sense when the battery, cooling, tires, and transmission all check out. The Niro wins at the pump, but number 3 wins when you want a normal SUV that still feels modern and cheap to maintain. Number 3. Mazda CX-5, 2013 to 2016, non-turbo. A compact SUV does not have to feel like a penalty box just because you are trying to save money, and the first Mazda CX-5 proves that point better than most people expect. This is the one for the guy who wants low ownership cost but still wants steering, seats, and road feel that do not make every drive feel numb. The cheaper ownership story starts with the non-turbo Skyactiv 4-cylinder and the 6-speed automatic. No turbo heat, no CVT worry, no luxury suspension, no oversized SUV parts unless you buy a neglected all-wheel drive example with bad tires. Fuel economy can reach the mid-20s around town and low 30s on the highway depending on engine, gear, tires, and drivetrain. That is strong for a compact SUV that still feels comfortable and solid. Repair cost stays reasonable because the layout is familiar, the engine is common, and the usual repairs are ordinary. Brakes, struts, control arms, spark plugs, belts, wheel bearings, batteries, and fluids. A 2013 Sport often sits around the upper $8,000 retail range, while nicer trims and cleaner examples move closer to $10,000 or more. The market misses it because many buyers shop CR-V and RAV4 first. Those are good choices, but the Mazda often costs less while feeling better inside and sharper on the road. Mechanics like that balance when the car has records and no rust story. The big filter is the condition. Check rust in snow states, especially underneath and around suspension mounting areas. Test the infotainment, air conditioning, window switches, and rear hatch. Listen for suspension clunks, wheel bearing hum, and brake shake. If it has all-wheel drive, check for matching tires and service history. Mismatched tires can create costly stress, and neglected AWD parts erase the savings fast. Choose this one when you want a comfortable, sharp-driving compact SUV with low repair costs and no CVT. One shop habit I trust with these is simple. Look at the tires. 4 matching, decent tires usually tell me the owner treated the Mazda like a real vehicle, not a disposable appliance. Cheap mismatched rubber tells another story. One more reason the CX-5 works is owner satisfaction. People keep them because they do not feel cheap inside, and that matters over the years. A miserable, cheap SUV gets sold quickly. A pleasant one gets maintained because the owner actually likes driving it. That keeps the car cleaner, tighter, and easier to resell later. Avoid the neglected one with warning lights, cracked tires, and a seller blaming every noise on age. The Mazda feels like the smart value play, but number 2 is the Toyota that turns boring ownership into serious savings. Number 2. Toyota RAV4, 2009 to 2012, 2.54 cylinder. Boring ownership sounds dull until your neighbor is stuck paying costly repair bills on a newer SUV with more screens than sense. That is where the Toyota RAV4 with the 2.5-liter 4-cylinder makes its case. The 2009 to 2012 years matter because the 2.5 is the engine I would rather shop than the earlier 2.4 oil burner concern. You get a naturally aspirated Toyota 4-cylinder, a conventional automatic, normal tires, simple suspension, and a repair pattern nearly every independent shop understands. Front-wheel drive is the cheapest way to own one, but all-wheel drive can be fine when maintained and inspected correctly. Fuel economy usually sits in the low 20s around town and upper 20s on the highway, so it will not beat a hybrid, but it gives honest SUV use without full-size thirst. Average annual repair cost is low for the class, and common bills are predictable. Brakes, struts, tires, water pump, spark plugs, suspension bushings, fluids, and wheel bearings. Current used prices usually run around $7,000 to $12,000, with clean, low-mile examples higher because Toyota demand never really sleeps. The market does not fully miss this one, but many buyers still chase newer styling, bigger screens, and flashier interiors. Mechanics care less about the dashboard and more about the engine, transmission, cooling system, and underside. That is where this RAV4 stays strong. Inspect for water pump seepage, suspension noise, rust, uneven tire wear, and rear differential noise on all-wheel drive models. During the test drive, let it warm up, check shifting, Listen for wheel bearings and make sure the steering feels stable instead of loose. Also, check cargo floor condition, rear door operation, and service records. A RAV4 with cheap tires, no records, and rusty suspension bolts is not the same as a clean one with boring maintenance. Choose this one when you want Toyota reliability, cheap repair patterns, and a small SUV that does not need explaining. The reason it ranks this high is not excitement. It is predictability. A lot of used SUVs feel fine on day 1 and expensive on month 6. The right RAV4 feels plain, honest, and easy to understand from the start. Another quiet advantage is resale. Even when the mileage climbs, clean RAV4 examples still have buyers because the name carries trust. That means your ownership cost is not just repair bills and fuel. It is also what you can get back when you sell. A cheap SUV nobody wants later can cost more than a slightly pricier Toyota that keeps demand. That is why service records matter so much. They protect value. The RAV4 is the safe Toyota pick, but number 1 wins because it gives the best total balance for most used SUV buyers. Number 1. Honda CR-V 2012 to 2014. Ask me where I would send a practical buyer first, and the Honda CR-V from these years is the compact SUV I would put on the shortlist immediately. It does not win because it is the cheapest to buy. It wins because the total ownership picture is so complete. Fuel cost is reasonable, tires are normal size, insurance is usually calm, parts support is massive, resale stays strong, and mechanics know exactly what they are looking at. The 2.4-liter K-Series, 4-cylinder and 5-speed automatic are the whole reason this generation works. No turbo, no CVT, no luxury air suspension, no complicated gimmick turning an old SUV into a costly guessing game. Fuel economy usually lands in the low to mid-20s in town and low 30s on the highway, depending on drivetrain, tires, weather, and driving style. Common ownership bills are not scary. Brakes, tires, fluids, spark plugs, batteries, struts, air conditioning repairs, door lock actuators, and rear differential service on all-wheel drive models. Current used prices usually run around $8,000 to $14,000, with clean lower-mile examples higher because the market already knows the CR-V is a safe choice. Still, I like these years because they give a simple drivetrain before later compact SUVs became more complicated. Real shop experience matters here. You see these with 200,000 miles, tired seats, scratched cargo areas, and normal family wear, yet they still start every morning and drive like they are not finished. That is the kind of reliable boring I respect. Inspection is not hard, but it matters. Check air conditioning performance, oil leaks, warm transmission behavior, suspension clunks, tire wear, battery age, and rear differential service on all-wheel drive cars. Listen for groans on tight turns, test every window and lock, and look underneath for rust if it lives near salt. Choose this one when you want the smartest overall compact SUV. Reliable, comfortable, easy to sell, cheap to fix, and not painful at the pump. It earns number 1 because it does not dominate one category by a mile. It wins the full ownership picture. A tight budget buyer can buy cheaper. A fuel-only buyer can buy more efficiently. A badge shopper can buy newer. But the 45-plus buyer who wants one sensible small SUV that does almost everything right should start here. The CR-V is practical, stable, proven, and easy to own when the example is clean. Another reason it earns the top spot is the exit plan. When you are done with it, people still want a CR-V. That makes ownership less risky than a weird bargain nobody searches for. You may pay more upfront, but you often get more back, and repairs stay understandable in between. That is the kind of math older buyers respect, because it does not depend on luck, hype, or a dealer promise. It depends on a proven platform, common parts, and honest maintenance. That is what matters when the money is yours. If this saves you from one costly SUV mistake, subscribe. We show the ownership math before the dealership tells its story. Buyer cheat sheet, quick and useful, because cheap compact SUVs only stay cheaper when you buy the right one. Suzuki SX-4 is the oddball all-wheel drive pick, best when price matters and you can live with a forgotten badge. The Hyundai Tucson is the tight budget, simple pick, best when the timing belt history and rust condition are clean. Ford Escape is the domestic parts pick, best when you want common repairs without Honda or Toyota pricing. Mitsubishi Outlander Sport is the forgotten crossover. Best when front-wheel drive is enough and the transmission feels smooth. Subaru XV Crosstrek is the weather pick. Best when matching tires, oil level, and transmission behavior check out. Honda HR-V is the cheap modern Honda. Best when you want low fuel use, clever cargo space, and compact car repair bills. Kia Niro Hybrid is the fuel saver. Best when gas cost is your biggest pain. And hybrid health checks are clean. Mazda CX-5 is the value feel-good SUV. Best when you want comfort, handling, and no CVT. Toyota RAV4 is the simple Toyota durability pick. Best when boring repairs and strong resale matter. Honda CR-V is the smartest overall buy. Best when you want the safest balance of fuel, space, reliability, resale, and repair cost. Main rule: do not buy only by badge. Buy by engine, transmission, maintenance records, rust condition, tire wear, cooling health, and inspection results. Cheap to own means the whole car stays predictable, not just the purchase price. If the tires are mismatched, the fluids are dark, the air conditioning is weak, or the seller has no records, slow down. A cheap SUV can become expensive fast when you inherit neglect. Bring a flashlight, check underneath, drive it until fully warm, and listen more than the seller talks. A good compact SUV should feel calm, clean, and normal. Also, price the boring stuff before you brag about the deal. 4 tires, front brakes, rear brakes, fluids, spark plugs, battery, alignment, and 1 suspension repair can wipe out the savings on a cheap SUV. That does not mean walk away from every older vehicle. It means you use those items for math. If a seller wants top money, the tires should not be cracked, the brakes should not pulsate, and the service history should not be a mystery. Cheap ownership starts before you buy, not after. I also like to compare every SUV against a simple sedan in my head. If the SUV cannot justify its extra fuel, tires, and weight with real use, you are paying for shape instead of value. These picks earn their spot because the extra height, hatch, and winter confidence do not destroy the budget. That is the difference between useful and wasteful, and it is where smart buyers win. The badge matters less than the receipt folder and the test drive. Clean proof beats loud promises every single time. That is the whole point of this list. Click the next video before these cheap SUVs disappear. Subscribe for reliable engines, cheaper repairs, and the buying checks that keep your wallet safe.